Hi and welcome to this DCP web tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to speed up your WordPress website using the free SiteGround Optimizer plugin. Okay, let's go ahead and open up the web browser. So we've got this demonstration website. We've been using this to demo some different plugins for WordPress, and today I want to install the SiteGround Optimizer plugin to speed up this website. So if we head over to this tab here, we can see SiteGround here, and if we go over to hosting and WordPress, right now I'm hosting this particular website, this demo website, on the SiteGround hosting solution. So I prefer to use SiteGround. There are many other hosting companies out there, but SiteGround seem to provide one of the best hosting solutions for WordPress websites. So if you're interested in looking at SiteGround for your website, they do free migration. If you look at the top here, it says 80% off and free transfer. They'll transfer your WordPress website over for you, and you can also use the built-in plugin for SiteGround to do transfers yourself if you want to. Right, the transfers are very easy, so I might show you how to do that in a separate tutorial. But you can see free transfer, free WordPress installation, and free migrator plugin as well. They also give you enhanced security plugin, but they also give you a optimizer plugin for your website as well to optimize your website. Now that plugin works best with SiteGround hosting, but you can install that same plugin and use it on other hosting providers as well, so you can test it out and see how well it works on maybe GoDaddy or a different provider. But today we're going to be using on the SiteGround hosting and the SiteGround Optimizer plugin itself. Okay, let's go ahead and close down this tab. I'll put a link to the SiteGround website in the YouTube description if you're interested in that. I'm going to go to this website, the test page. So this is like a home page, just a little mock-up home page, and I want to copy this URL, and I'm going to go over to Kingdom so we can test the speed of a website here. So I'm going to set it to United Kingdom and start test, and it's going to take a few seconds for it to go to that page, analyze that page, download all the information, and give us an overall score. And this is going to be our test, a little test here first before we install the plugin. So we can see we get like a performance of 78, 819 kilobytes, 770 milliseconds, and 68 requests. So let's see if we can speed up the page just by simply installing the plugin and enabling all of the features with the SiteGround Optimizer. Okay, let's go to the WordPress admin control panel. I'm going to click on plugins, and I'm going to click add new, and then I'm going to type into here SiteGround. So just type in SiteGround, and you should see three plugins. You'll see one called Optimizer. There's a security plugin. Maybe we'll make another tutorial about that. And then we've got the SiteGround migrator. So if you're hosting your website on another hosting provider and you want to migrate it to SiteGround, this is just an awesome tool. It allows you to migrate websites very easily. So I've used this migrator to move websites from other hosting providers to SiteGround. It's literally a couple of mouse clicks. It makes it so simple. But for now, we're going to go ahead and click install on the SiteGround Optimizer, and we'll install this plugin and activate it. Okay, let's go ahead and move over to the SiteGround Optimizer tab here. So we'll click on SiteGround Optimizer, and you can see there's like 4 different elements to it. There's caching, there's an environment, there's the front end, and then there's media. So we're going to go through all 4 of these elements and then enable the options and see how it improves the performance. So we've got our test one here. We know that this is our score, and now I've got a separate tab here where we can rerun the test to see how it improves. Let's go ahead and click on caching. And we've got dynamic caching here. So this stores the content on the server memory for faster access. This is quite a good feature. And normally you have to go and buy a caching plugin. So normally you go and buy a third-party caching plugin. You have to pay for that yearly. With SiteGround, you're going to get their own free caching plugin, which is directly connected to their hosting environment. So this is a quite tightly integrated plugin. But you can, I believe, install this plugin on other third-party hosting like GoDaddy or somewhere else and test it out as well. So we're going to enable file-based caching. This basically makes almost like a capture of your website page in HTML format and serves that to the customer, so it loads very fast. And then we're going to enable Memcached as well. So that basically stores a frequently executed queries to your database. So it's going to store that in memory so that it can get access to these queries for your database much faster. And we'll leave all of the other settings enabled as default. Let's go over to the environment, And in the environment tab, we can enable a few different features. One important feature, one thing I should actually mention is with SiteGround, when you set up your hosting account, they also give you a free SSL certificate. So you can enable Let's Encrypt SSL. So this website right now is running an SSL certificate for Let's Encrypt, right? So I'll get that for free, and you can install that on as many websites as you want. So depending on the hosting package you select at SiteGround, if you select the first one, it's just for one website, but as you move up the ladder, you can install many websites in the same environment. So let's click back on this tab, and we're going to enable forced HTTPS. So this will make sure that whenever a user goes to your website, it always serves them the encrypted page, the HTTPS page, right? That's what we want. Otherwise, you get this little error at the top here saying website insecure. You ever see that? Sometimes you see like this message on Google saying your website is not secure. It's a problem. So using this option will fix that problem. Sometimes when people build websites, or when developers build websites, or you're building one yourself, sometimes you might add an image and you're not running SSL, and you add the image and it's running its path to the HTTP address, and that can cause a problem. That can cause a mixed content issue problem. So to fix that, you can just enable this option, and it will make sure that all content is served using the HTTPS, right? So any insecure request will be now secured. So that's quite important. And then we just enable these three options just by clicking the disabled options here for these three elements. So this should speed up the website as well. Let's go to the front end option, and front end is all about trying to compress the CSS files, the JavaScript files, and the HTML files. Now you have to be a bit careful when you compress these files, because sometimes it can cause problems with the loading of your website. So after you enable these options, it's worth going to test your website to make sure everything is running correctly. But we'll enable minifying of CSS, combining the CSS files and preloading them. We can do the same with JavaScript as well. Let's enable everything, and then we can do the same with the HTML. We can optimize web fonts. We can preload web fonts as well, so you can specify specific web fonts to preload if you want in here, and remove query string for static resources, remove version query strings for static resources, improving caching of those resources. So let's enable this, and we can disable or leave enable emojis. Enable to prevent WordPress from automatically detecting and generating emojis in your page. So if you're using them, you don't really want to do this, but I'm not using emojis, so we can enable this as well. So let's go over to media, and we'll get to media. You can see that we've got the option to have WebP images. So these are better compressed images compared to like JPEG or GIF files. So when we go over to our media library, if we look inside our media library, if we click on one of these pictures, we can see they're in JPEG format, right? JPEG. And what this software will do, if we just go back to this tab, is going to take a look at all the images and it's going to compress them into WebP files. So if we enable this, or if we click edit first, we can see the compression level. So you can set it to like low, medium and high. So depending on the compression level, it's going to affect the file size, but also the loading speed, right? So you can compress really high or compress really low. For now, we're just going to leave it on the default option. You can tick this option to back up the original images. I want to compress my existing images too, so we can enable that, and overwrite images with custom compression level. So we'll leave this off for the moment. Let's just see this. It says changing your compression level will regenerate all existing images. This is a time and resource consuming process that may take a while depending on the number of the images and the size of your images, right? So let's try and set this to low compression level, let's say 25%, and let's just click confirm, and then let's enable the option, and it's going to start compressing one of 154 images. So that might take a little bit of time for it to go through and compress all the images. So it's looking at all the images in your media directory here, and you can see there's 154 of them. It's going to go through all the different images and compress them down to a smaller file size, and that should result in a quicker loading page. Let's just make sure it's enabled. Let's just enable it. Okay, so it didn't take too long to compress all of the images. It took about a minute. I'm going to enable lazy loading. So lazy loading will help to basically load images as and when they're displayed into the web browser, right? So if you don't see an image down here at the bottom, for example, something like this, it will lazy load the images into the page, which will also help improve the speed of the web page. So one thing we should do is just reload this page, and we've got WebP images enabled. We've gone through all of the different options in here, enabled them all. The web page looks perfectly fine. It's still loading as I expect it to load. We can just go over to the contact page. We can see that's loading perfectly fine. And if we're clicking on these pages, you can see they're loading like super fast. This is the About Us page. This is the home page, because we've got caching enabled now. So it's going to load everything a lot quicker. So let's take this URL. This is our original test at 78. These are the results we got. Let's paste this back into here. And we're still on United Kingdom. We're going to click start. And let's see if we can get a better score in terms of page speed. So let's give this a little test and let's see what the results come out like. So hopefully we can see a smaller file size. So now we're down to 526 kilobytes. We've got 94 page score. We've got a 1 second load time and 18 requests. Whereas on this side, let's just see, the load time was actually quicker, but there was a higher page speed, less performance, and 68 requests. So we've got only 18 requests here, you see. So we're caching and we're getting a much better speed in terms of performance. This load time is not always accurate, right? The load time here is not always accurate. So I wouldn't always go by the load time, but I'm looking at the size of the page and the number of requests. So if the page size is smaller and the number of requests is smaller, we should see an improvement in terms of load speed. So a good way to test that is to just copy the URL as well, and we can open up another web browser, one where we're not logged into WordPress, and we can just go and test the website, right? So if I'm a user, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at this web page. If I click on these pages, how fast are they loading? Are they loading pretty quick? You know, they're almost instant loads, right? So very fast loading website. We can click on them, and now the caching is booting in, because now it's loading an actual cache of the page from the browser. So you can see as I'm clicking these pages, they're super fast. So that's how you can install the SiteGround Optimizer plugin and optimize your website. You can go and test this on other environments. If you're running a website on GoDaddy or somewhere else, you can also test this plugin to see if it works well there as well. But this plugin is ideally installed if you're running SiteGround hosting, and best of all, guess what, it's free, right? So you don't have to pay for a caching plugin. Some other hosting providers, you have to buy the hosting, then you have to buy a separate caching plugin, install it, configure it. This one is super simple. So I use that pretty much on all of my client projects that are hosted on SiteGround. So hopefully you can see a difference there. I guess one other test we could do is just go back to plugins, and what we could do just to test it one more time, we could deactivate the SiteGround Optimizer. So there's no sort of optimization running right now. If we went back to here and run another test, let's just check it quickly. So this is the one where we had it optimized, and this is the one with the plugin uninstalled, disabled, we could say. Just curious to see what the score comes out as. You know, if we disable the plugin, do we still get a good score? So we can see now we can see that we disabled the plugin. The load time is actually bigger, and the page size and the requests and everything. So the load time we saw before was a bit deceptive. It wasn't actually the load time. Sometimes when you run this a few different times, you'll see different scores here. So we've got 78, 640 kilobytes, 1.3 second load time, and 68 requests. And over here we've got a 94 score, half a megabyte, 526 kilobytes, 1 second load time, and 18 requests. Let's just do one more test by let's just go back to the plugin, activate it one more time. So now it's enabled, and you know the plugin's enabled because you see the purge cache option up here. There should be like a purge cache. It takes a little bit of time for the plugin to enable, but let's be patient. And here we can see purge cache, and then we know it's enabled. And what we can do is just run another test with the plugin enabled, and let's just see if we see any difference on this side as well. Just curious I am. So let's see what happens. Okay. So yeah, we're getting roughly the same results as before, but our performance is 94. Without the plugin, it was 78. 1 second load time. Now we're 1.3 seconds. Now we're down to 1 second. We've got less data that we're loading because we run the caching plugin. This was something like 900 kilobytes before. So I still think it's looking at the WebP files, even though it's loading it here, it's looking at the WebP files. And then we've got 68 requests, whereas we've got 18 requests here. So we do see a performance, right, increase, which is faster loading website, which means that our customers can browse our website a lot quicker, which is all good. Let's go ahead and minimize this. That's the end of this tutorial. I hope you find it informative and useful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP web tutorial.